Hi, I'm Barbara O'Brien. I'm an animal trainer and photographer, and I'd like to welcome you to The Empathetic Trainer.
Hey everyone, today I'm sitting down with Denise Fenzi. We're talking about choosing the right dog for your life, not the one you think you should want. Let's jump in.
Denise Fenzi is a dog trainer, writer, and educator who's known for her thoughtful, honest approach to training. She has a deep background in dog sports and obedience, but what really stands out to me is the way she talks about dogs and the people who love them. She uses a lot of clarity and compassion. Through her writing and her online education work, Denise has helped a lot of people let go of rigid ideas about training, slow down, and really pay attention to the dog in front of them. And what I appreciate most is how much compassion she brings to dogs and to the people who are generally trying their best. I like that we're all trying our best. Nobody wants to be, awful to our dogs. Welcome to the podcast, Denise.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Well, your name was familiar to me in my whole dog world, all of my animal people. I have an animal actors agency, so I get to hire a lot of wonderful dogs. And so then we have a lot of people in common because they're all were like, oh, you've got to talk to Denise Fenzi. A lot of people who do dog sports, competitive with their dogs, and so if I start naming my border collie people, you would know them all, and things
It's a
like
small
that.
world. It's
It's
a
a
small
small
world.
world. Well, you're highly regarded. I just want you to know that right off the bat. But more than
Thank
just
you.
locally here, where I live in the Twin Cities, and then, well, I'm in Wisconsin, but near enough to the Twin Cities, you're nationally, probably worldly known. So that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Uh, so, first of all, I have to introduce this is Kipling, my new puppy. I won't talk about it all that much because I want to talk to you, but I'm a border collie person. I live on a farm. I've had herding breeds. This is a whole nother thing. I mean, a whole nother world. And so, talk about the dog in front of you, which we're going to talk about because my expectations of how training the border collies compared to working with this guy completely different. Okay,
Oh yeah, I
so
have a little old man terrier here, and it's
you,
truly night and day from the Belgians. Or generally, I have Belgians, but right now I have a border
Mhm.
collie. But
Yeah.
change of scenery for sure.
Oh, it's they don't argue, they protest. It's like, what? They're just they're so different. But man, he makes us laugh. Okay,
Good.
well, so what I kind of want to do is, can you take us here? I'm gonna let him sit next to me, which is his favorite place. Um, Can you take us back to the beginning a bit? Like, how did dogs first become such an important part of your life?
Oh wow, that's okay. That's back.
Mhm.
I grew up in a dog family,
Okay.
so I remember. Oh, I must have been 7 or 8 years old. And my mom said we were buying a Lhasa Apso. I don't know what that
Mhm.
was, but anyway, we walked to this place. It was a shoe store, and the
Mhm.
guy had the dog in. It was like a year-old dog in the basement.
Oh,
And I remember this. I haven't thought about this in forever, but we went downstairs and there was this terrified little dog in the corner, and we picked it up and brought it home. And she was a registered dog and AKC registered. And then my parents did, like good, responsible people, went to dog training class with the dog. And things were rough back then. So this poor little Lhasa Apso, because they're about to take over the world, right? You got to get down on them. So they got down on her. And
mm,
she was basically, with hindsight, a fundamentally good dog. There's dogs that put up with pretty much anything we can shell out, and so anyway, apparently she was also rather good looking. And they took her to a dog show and she got a 5 point major. And that sort of
wow.
started yeah, I know, like out of the basement, right? And then they got a CDX on her, which is an obedience title. And that's like,
On
nobody
a
gets
Lhasa.
obedience. Nobody, it was like the only one, for years. Somebody else ended up getting a UD. But so anyway, so they've got this dog who got them into the dog world. And then they started breeding Lhasa Apsos. And at some point, they said I could get a dog if I raised a couple of guide dog puppies. So I did that. I raised a couple of guide dog puppies. And
Parents
then
sound
the
really
param,
cool. I mean, I
huh?
don't interrupt, but your parents sound like
Huh?
they were cool
Huh?
parents. Like, you
Huh?
can have a dog, but you need to do this
Huh?
responsible thing first and
Huh?
on your,
Huh?
wow, the
Yeah.
guide dogs?
Yeah. So they let me get a dog, but the parameters, it had to be a small dog.
Hmm.
So I got a Sheltie because I wanted, the only dog sports back then were obedience, tracking, confirmation.
Huh?
Um,
Huh?
am I
Huh?
running out? Maybe like
That
IGP, kind of Schutzen type, but it was
yeah,
a
that was
different
it.
time. It was
Yeah,
a different time.
I
Huh?
remember. Mhm.
Yeah. So I wanted to do obedience because that was the dog sport. There wasn't even agility, you know.
No, there wasn't.
So I got the a Sheltie, and then the rest is history. So I guess I was 12 or 13 when I started to compete with my dogs, and varying levels of success. Fairly traditional training, not as hard-handed as some of what I saw around me, but unreasonable
Mhm.
with hindsight, unkind.
Mhm.
Um, and then the last one I had before I went to college, I remember because you didn't train dogs until they were 6 months old, which frankly made sense because if you look back on how we did it, I can't
Mhm.
imagine doing those things to a 10-week-old puppy. So
Oh,
basically, I figured
yeah.
I had that first 4-month window to just play with it and do tricks. So I did. I taught the dog tricks with food because the food had to go away at 6 months,
Mhm.
um, and I guess that was my first introduction, whether I was thinking about it or not, that you could actually get behaviors in other ways. And then from there on, I came back from college and ended up switching to Belgians a couple of years later. It's when I was, I guess, 24, and I'm 50. How old am I? 57, I think. I've lost track a few times, which is embarrassing when your birthday
I
comes
do.
and you realize you
Yeah.
you lost a year or you gained a year. But what are you gonna do? So from 24 till now, I had Belgians and total change of direction. And just really over time, gradually, that first Belgian was important because I put him on the same path, which is, well, till you're 6 months old, we're going to play
Mhm.
games. And 6 months came, but he was doing fine. 7 months came, he was doing fine. 8 months came, I used a ball. I got all my behaviors. And he was very accomplished very early. He was 21 or 22 months. He was a champion UDT, high end
Okay.
trial dog at 14
So,
months.
for you to so a couple things for my audience that may not be as familiar.
Yeah.
Belgian refers to like a Belgian like Tavern or something, or
Yes.
Belgian what? Okay. And then if you wouldn't mind just explaining what they're like, and
Sure.
then the, the obedience has several levels. So companion dog, and then UTD. So just a brief, quick, like what
Sure.
that means for people that don't
So
know.
the UD is the highest level at that time of the obedience titles, and it means to put a fair amount of work into the dog. It's a
Mhm.
fairly complex level. The pass rate's quite low. At the top level, it's about 7%, so it's quite low, and you have to do
Mhm.
it 3 times. Tracking is tracking title. Schutzhund is a protection sport. I started doing that with him, and he hit the highest level in that sport. And for the most part, what I learned is I wasn't trying, but the ball was working quite well. The cookies were working quite well. I
Mhm.
did add corrections because I remember the first time I took him to a class, I was training him on my own at home, and I went to a class and he just couldn't do a thing. And I remember in my mind thinking, okay, well, this is why you need corrections, and this is the time when you introduce corrections. Uh,
Mm.
and I did. My goodness, I just look back and I think about what I know now.
Oh,
Um,
we all in our generation
yeah,
absolutely feel that. Like what they
yeah,
taught me, in dog training school when I was 14, 15, I'm a little mortified to think that I was listening to that. So,
yeah.
it's
Really, a lack of perspective. We didn't really consider the dog's point of view. I mean, frankly, I don't think it even occurred to me, is the dog having a good time? It didn't. It was not a question I was asking at that
Mhm,
time. I ask that question obsessively now, but I didn't then. But the dog, to his credit, put up with me, put up with my training. Was just another. I just when I say a good dog, what I mean is a dog who fills in all the gaps. So
mhm,
in whatever, in socialization, in training, in everything that we do, and the dog still ticks along and functions in our society. And so, for the
right.
most part, he was fairly functional in our society, in spite of me sometimes, rather than because of me. Um, and so, I would say he was sort of a turning point. And then after that, I never really had a moment where I said, from this day forward, I'm never going to use aversives again. And I would still not say that because I do use aversives. I think everybody does. I'm just more honest
So
about that.
before let's explain, because
Yeah, for
correction,
sure. For
adversive,
sure.
just so people understand.
So when I use the word aversive, I'm saying something the dog would prefer not happen. So if an aversion is me saying to my dog, don't do that, and it stops their behavior, that was an aversive because they would prefer one, I not stop them, two, that they get to have what they want. I
Mhm,
don't have a problem with stopping problem behavior. I actually think it's an error not to stop problem behavior. My
mhm,
line in the sand, and I think we all need one, I don't cause my dogs physical discomfort or mental pain. So
mm.
what that means is I'll tell my dogs to stop doing that. I'll even tell my dogs, if you keep that up, you're going to be a homeless dog. So I have a range of tone that I use and to communicate with my dogs.
Mhm.
but I don't think my dogs are ever afraid of me. They understand. They'll perk up and say, "You really don't like that." And I really don't like that. You don't do that. But I don't feel like there's any fear. They watch me fairly clear headed and they just are like, okay, well, I guess I won't do that. Because anyway,
Yeah.
if you continue on that path, I'm going to stop you physically if I have to. And then physical pain. If I walk my dog on a leash and they're pulling, the leash is operating as a training tool. But I don't think it's causing my dogs pain, because if it was, they'd stop pulling. So I'm going to assume that when they control those circumstances, that while they're not getting their way, the leash isn't aversive because they would rather be off the leash doing what they want. I don't worry about it, but I won't say that I don't use aversives, because I think that gets us into some weird territory that everything is between, on a scale of 1 to 10 or 0 to 10. I operate between -2 and 10 if 0 is an absolute neutral. And I think it makes for more clarity in my relationship, because frankly, if somebody's annoyed with me, I'd rather they just tell me. They don't have to scare me. They don't have to throw things at me. They don't have to hit me, but they can tell me, I really don't like it when you do that.
Communication.
And that's how I think about aversives. So when I say, sort of in the past, I'm talking about a time where mental intimidation and physical intimidation, physical pain was on the table. And physical is, again, it's a range. There's everything from, I don't know, I can't even think of something, but a quick correction of some type that the dog doesn't like, but probably doesn't really hurt them, maybe a momentary discomfort, all the way to really kind of abusive choices, which I hope I wasn't making abusive choices, but I was certainly using physical means to stop behaviors I didn't like. And I don't really do that anymore, or I don't intentionally do it, probably on accident sometimes, but that's not by purpose. It just, life happens. And somewhere in there, I don't know, maybe, I don't even know, 20, 25 years ago, I just discovered that I was using fewer and fewer intentional aversives with my dogs because I didn't need them anymore. And I've seen this a lot around me, that as people become more sophisticated trainers, they use many fewer aversives because the training clarity is such that they don't come up. So if you do a million recall games with your puppy in a lot of environments, then their puppy just learns to come when they're called. And often the moment of reckoning, he didn't come when he's called, doesn't actually happen, because whether you meant to or not, you set up so many really high quality scenarios that a combination of very good training and habit, which we don't talk about enough, causes the dog to respond sort of in spite of alternative options. I think the one moment I do remember was not about my own training and my own dogs. It was around other people's dogs, because I was a professional trainer working with clients. And I remember being at a seminar, and seminar after seminar, teaching seminar after seminar, not using corrections, and just telling the person, oh, this is what's happening here, and this is how we're going to fix that, and fixing it and fixing it. And I went home one day and I looked back and I thought, I never correct the dogs. I always correct the handlers. So if that's true, then why am I ever correcting the dogs? If I can look at a situation, come in and say, the reason your dog is doing this is because you're standing next to a wall. That's too much pressure for your dog. If you just move away from the wall, that will stop. And it does stop immediately. And then you start going, well, if that's the case, then why not always fix the handler instead of the dog? And that was kind of an interesting moment, because it made me a much smarter trainer, because I had to be. So with my own dogs, I was just training well from the beginning and things weren't coming up. But with my clients, that's not necessarily the case. I might be dealing with somebody who's very new to dog sports, or I really always worked with dog sport clients. It could be a million things, but I could say to myself, if I had this dog, this wouldn't be happening because, and I could mentally fill in the blanks. And so what I had to do was learn how to solve problems that I probably wouldn't have had using methods that were new to me. And that absolutely skyrocketed my learning. And I do believe that necessity is the mother of invention. I think that is an absolutely true statement, that when you don't have a choice, you figure things out. I mean, look how the world changed in terms of businesses around the time of COVID, especially in the dog training world. Many people were going to lose their livelihoods. And now look at the number of people who have switched to online training or a hybrid method, and they've discovered it actually works better. You have a dog with separation anxiety, and it makes sense. You have a dog with fear issues. It makes sense to incorporate a heavy online component rather than going to a house with a dog who's terrified and making things worse. And so we had no choice, right? We we're forced to adapt to the world as it came to be, and it's really dramatically changed the dog industry and how we train. So that's kind of how I felt at that time. I suddenly had to say, I know how I would fix this traditionally, but I don't have that option anymore. What do I have? I became a much better trainer, a much better, maybe a much better problem solver, because that's where it was really focused. It was on helping other people.
Helping the people help their dogs and
Yeah,
themselves.
and then
Yeah.
I guess I never looked back. I'm pretty happy with how I train. I like the way my dogs work and respond, and I love training. I love working with people. I love educating. So that's
Well,
where I'm at.
that's a real gift because, of course, we know some wonderful trainers that are great with the dogs, of course, but maybe not so much with people. And having a lot of patience for people is going to be important. What you're talking about really correlates to what's going on in the horse world right now. The horse world is behind as far as timing, and right now there's a lot more out there about understanding how horses think and how to motivate them and all of those things. And then now it's split into camps. Oh, you can't have adversives, so nobody wants to be terrible physical things. At least they're trying not, that hurt a horse or scare a horse, right? Except for some people that still think that way.
Sure.
But now it's split like, well, you always got to give your horses treats, or you can never give your horses treats, or it's like there's still a 1,000-pound animal that you need to be safe around, So
Okay,
there's
but
going to be
that's
some adversives that keep you safe,
that was what came into my brain as you said this. I thought, when a novice person shows up in front of me with a 10-week-old puppy and their timing is terrible and everything's a little bit out of control and they don't get the cookie in the dog's mouth before the puppy has got attached to their sleeve, and I was thinking we have a lot of freedom from that time until the puppy is old enough to get something in place so that everybody is safe. And even so, I don't know how much you know about this, but I talk a lot about the rights of handlers and society in addition to the rights of dogs. I think this is important and not discussed enough. So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
I had a person not too far away. I don't take clients anymore, but I do train dogs. Sometimes it comes up. So a woman down the street, older lady with a bloodhound. She had bloodhounds her entire life. Now, she should not have had a bloodhound at this point. She was probably in her 80s. She was a bit fragile. She should not have had that dog, but she had that dog. That dog broke her arm, her hip, because it was just a dog being a dog. And it's a big
It's 100
dog.
pounds, aren't they?
It's a
Bloodhounds are
big
100
old
pounds.
dog, a lovely dog, but a big dog. And the dog had 100 health problems. And she lived in a very small space. It was just a recipe for misery. And somebody had worked with her and put a prong on the dog, and it put holes in the dog neck, but it actually did not change the dog's behavior.
Oh,
And at some
for
point they said,
no, just explain a prong collar because
"Oh, it's just a collar with little spikes that point inwards, and when you pull on it, it's uncomfortable. So most dogs stop pulling." Okay, well, fine. But it wasn't working. And she had to take this dog to the vet very often because of issues. And the vet said, "You may not bring that dog here anymore unless you solve this problem because it's not safe. You can't get the dog out of the car. Our staff is not equipped to get the dog out of the car. It's a busy road safely." And so now things were getting really tight. They had to solve this. And it was kind of an interesting situation. So I went over and I visited her. And I ended up putting a combination of a head halter and a front clip harness on the dog. Now, both of those tools are considered controversial in parts of the dog world that I hang out in. They don't like head halters because dogs don't like them. They don't like front clip harnesses because they pull the dog slightly sideways. And I said, you know what? I hear that. So we have a dog, we have a handler, we have society. Why are the rights of the dog to experience no aversives greater than the right of the woman not to break her hip and her wrists? What about the rights of everybody else in society when a 100-pound, good-natured as can be dog comes tearing down the street after them to say hello to see their dog? And I have an issue there because safety is really, really important. And this actually does put me, I guess, at odds with a percentage of the dog world. I do not center the dog in the equation. I center the situation. And I think it's interesting that you brought up horses because I personally do not want to be in a space with someone who has a horse that they cannot control somehow. Now, I don't care that much how you got from here to there, but I do care that your 1,000-pound animal does not become a liability to the rider to the society, to if you go to a show, an event, like everybody has to be safe. And these things can be accomplished. I know this. I work with powerful dogs, but I don't think it's a no-brainer. I don't think it's an entry-level skill. I think it can be very complex. And I have very little emotional issue with backup contingencies. So if somebody has that horse, my attitude is, well, if you have backup equipment that the horse finds aversive and the only time you activate it is when it's absolutely necessary, then I'd rather you have it than not. And I say the same thing about dogs. If you need aversive equipment on your dog because 0.01% of the time your dog gets super excited, sees a squirrel, and goes, I would prefer that you have the aversive equipment on your dog. You can have two lines of attachment to your dog. Use the one that makes you more comfortable, but under an emergency circumstance, you have that option. I think that's more responsible. And I would also rather strongly suggest that before people get a dog, they take a really hard look at their situation. So let's notice that I now have a Border Collie puppy and not a Belgian puppy. There are many reasons for that. One is I need a herding dog because of my circumstance. It's a lot easier to move sheep with a dog than on my own, especially right now when the grass is green. But the other reason is I can't do another 80-pound dog. I'm just physically at a point where body parts start to hurt. And the process of raising up a Belgian of the type I have dogs that are very high energy, very temperamental. Often they come with a degree of behavior issues you have to work through. Often they require a lot of management in public just because they're busy. They're into everything. And if you're not going to use equipment to calm the dog down, then you're going to use training and you're going to use skill and you're going to, on occasion, have to use your size to prevent the dog from going a certain direction. And I don't ever want to have a dog that I am physically incapable of stopping its forward movement if it's going a direction, either just by picking it up if it's my small dog, or physically planting my body and preventing it if it's a big dog. And so I just realized I think I'm at that time when my options are to go with smaller female Belgians, which is 100% acceptable and on the table, or to switch breeds. And so I've decided to try a Border Collie, and I'm really enjoying him. But I wish people would think about this earlier in the process of getting a dog, because I'm seeing too many people not adequately considering their circumstance, their size, their strength, any physical issues you might have with my arms are terrible now. So my arms, my wrists, back issues. If people would take a little more time up front to say, when this is full grown, am I going to feel comfortable handling this dog using equipment that I'm comfortable with?
Right.
And that is where I think the horse world is going to run into some really interesting conversations, because if people get it wrong, the ramifications are significant.
Especially the fastest growing group of riders, of course, people my age. And there's a very small amount of very stable, steady horses, like you were talking about dogs that put up with everything. Those horses are rare too. And so, my own self, a couple years ago, I broke my pelvis, fell off got bucked off a horse that I wasn't listening to. She told me, because it was a rescue, which is fine. I've done plenty of that. But boy, it sure made me realize that I can actually get seriously hurt. I mean, I'm recovered and I've healed and I'm riding, but that particular horse has gone to a different place. So she's with somebody that can be with her better. And I've made it my mission to understand how it got that way, what happened before what happened. So I'm learning, but I also have surrounded myself with some really lovely horses because I'm never giving them up. So, and then you're right about changing and being prepared, because I've been a dog trainer a long time, not like you at all. Most animal actors is what I train, so that's a whole different world. You're training for set. So it's positive, and you positive too, but like the dogs love it. We wouldn't let them do it if they weren't having a good time. It's all personality. The dog has to want to. And that's great. And I loved it. And I live on a farm and I've had these Border Collies or Collie mix, all the time. And then was working on set and used this same litter of Australian Terrier puppies several times, and they were just really smart. And this one was incredibly stand out, learn it fast, how much fun he was. And in a weak moment, because I lost my old Border Collie 2 weeks before, so he was like 16. A weak moment, I said, I should try this terrier. Did I think about, I have cats, many cats. Did I think the cats sometimes are outside where he could chase them? Did I think about that? Did I plan for all the, did I realize that terriers have opinions and they're very vocal? And, so
Yeah.
I didn't go into it clear-headed in the sense of knowing everything. Now that he's here and I am learning and I love him and it is so much fun and I've had to completely change how I train because the border collies are completely intuitive and watch me all the time and wanna know what I'm doing and want to participate and are biddable and are quiet and, and he's like loud and proud and in there and I'm with you and, whatever. And as long as he can, luckily he's not a Jack Russell. He's an Australian Terrier, so a little more people oriented. But he also had to learn really quick. You don't get to play with the cats. You don't get to mouth them because they will play with the dumb ones will come up and want to play with them. So not allowed. And he's learned, and I would not trust him though. So you talked about the aversives. So he's got a lead, a 20-foot lead. So when we go outside and he gets to run and play, the minute he starts to focus on something he's not supposed to, I can use that aversive to bring him back. Like, this is where the fun stuff happens right here instead of chasing,
Yeah.
the cat.
A little
Will I trust?
interrupter there. Yeah.
Yeah. Will I really trust him? Not for a long time, because
No.
it's his breed. It's my fault. I brought home something that maybe not, he's not necessarily, well, he could run away, but he's much more wants to be with you than say some of the other terriers. But it's like I've really had to educate myself. Now, it would have been a disaster if I hadn't bothered to educate myself and expect him to be just like the border collies.
Well, my terrier is a Westie Chihuahua Karen, who knows what mix. He's 12 pounds. His size is what has saved his butt many a time because he's so
Right.
small that even when he went through his kind of reactive behavior phases and all, it didn't actually matter because he was little and I could
Right.
pick him up and redirect him. Uh, I don't think I would have enjoyed him nearly as much if he was a 60-pound dog.
Oh, no, this would
At
not be
his
fun.
small size, my God, I used to have two female Belgians who would fight, I don't know, twice a year. Not a lot, but when they fought, it was terrible.
Mhm.
And like no separating them. And it happened when he was about 6 or 7 months old. They got in a fight, and my Belgians, if they saw something like that, they would have run as far as they could to the back corner of the yard. Not my terrier. He, at 6 or 7 months of age, turned around and leaped into the middle of the fight.
Oh,
And I
goodness.
did something which you should absolutely never do because you'll get bit. I
Yeah.
reached in to the middle of it and I got bit and pulled him out because I thought
Yeah.
if they'll kill him.
Yeah.
And it was such a moment to recognize that his response to arousal and aggression was dead opposite of what I'm used to. Herding dogs usually get scared and they move
Mhm.
away.
Yeah.
Terrier does not get scared and move away. He's like, I'm in. I'm all
Oh, yeah.
in. And it's actually a big part of why I never decided to compete with him. I did train him and I did some online stuff, and he kind of knew a lot of stuff. He was my demo dog. But I thought if I was ever at a dog show, and every once in a while at a dog show, there's a scuffle, things
Mhm.
happen. And most of those competitions take place off leash. I
Right.
thought I did not feel comfortable that I could guarantee that if there was a scuffle in the long sits and downs or something, that he wouldn't join the fray.
Yeah.
And that was just a risk I wasn't willing to take. But absolutely different. Like it never crossed my mind with my Belgians to think about things like that. They just mind their own business for the most part.
That's what my dogs do too. No, I understand, and what his job is to be my companion here on the farm, but he's an animal actor, and he that's what his job is, and he exceeds. I mean, for his age, he's only 8 months old, but I mean, he loves that. I mean, new trick, new attention, so he will do and be what I need him to be, I guess, which is great. But I probably won't get another one, you know?
That's funny. So my terrier, what he does is I think he has killed 2 mice in his life, but he's proud of that. I'm proud of that.
Mhm,
So he does tell me where they are. If there is a rat inside on my ranch, I'll know where it is, which is still
mhm.
helpful. It's a thing.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
now he's a little working dog. He's my little buddy. I think he is way cuter as a senior than he was as a younger dog because he's just so much more easy to get along with. He's
They're
pretty
so
happy to just follow along.
Yeah, that he's well, with the Westie and the Karen in there, that makes sense. Yeah, Kipling is his name. He is, not he knows where the rats are, and when I caught them, and it was a live trap, but I didn't let him have them, but boy, the brain knows. And, just having him around, the rats have left. He didn't even have to catch one. They've
Yeah.
left
And I've never thought of him as a smart
on a
dog, but
farm.
let me tell you, he's got some single incident learning about things that matter to him. So one day I was out at my ranch and a rabbit went under a shed And at that point, my dogs were just running loose, and I heard commotion, and I'm like, uh-oh. And as I went down, I could see that Brito, the little terrier, had chased the bunny under the shed. And
Mm-hmm.
just by sheer luck, depending on how you want to look at it, my Belgian was on the other side of the shed and the bunny popped out. And I
Oh,
saw that moment. I looked down and everybody was surprised. The rabbit was surprised when he saw the Belgian. The Belgian was surprised when he saw the rabbit. On this particular occasion, the rabbit got the short end of the stick. So that was the end of that bunny.
yeah.
Um, about a week later, I was looking out the window and I saw the Belgian had gone to one side of the shed and the terrier had gone in the other. And they had learned in one episode. I then saw that behavior several times. When
Mm-hmm.
Brito would think he was on a rat, I would see Zen position himself and wait
Oh, yeah.
for the terrier to flush the rat.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they never succeeded at that. Rats are crazy fast when they are being pursued. And they didn't win that contest. But the fact that in one episode they actually learned that they could work together,
Isn't that
uh,
something?
it was amazing. It was amazing to me. Even though I don't really like watching things die, just get killed randomly. I also don't want rats in my buildings. So
No, they can't have them in where the animals are on the farm. It's not safe. So,
bad news.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but that he was plenty smart when he was motivated. It's just that in general, he wasn't motivated by the things I wanted him to do. He would do them, but there's a difference between I can drill the border collie. I can do 10 retrieves in a row. And he's just as happy on the 10th as he is on the first. The terrier does not do 10 retrieves in a row. It's just,
Oh,
it just doesn't.
no, they're different for sure.
They're
For
different.
sure. So I'm kind of curious, and we can get back to working with people. Do you think people are harder on themselves than they need to be when it comes to training? Are they more sensitive? Like, are they more worried about doing a bad job than they, used to be? Maybe.
I don't know about pet people. I know in the dog sports world, it's a little out of control. We live in a very blame heavy society. So we have a hard time with the idea that things just happen. Bad things just happen in life. Good things just happen in life. We're not nearly as responsible for the realities of life as we like to think we are.
Yeah.
And in the dog world, it seems like, a dog fails in the ring and you hear everybody talking about, well, if he had done this, if he had done that. But that's actually not knowable. Like it is so rare that one single change in a big picture would actually have material affected an outcome. And I spent a lot of time trying to help people understand that rarely are single decisions the issue. The issue is trends of decisions. It's overall ways of thinking about how you train. If you go down the wrong path with a given dog for too long, then you're going to have ramifications. But it's so unusual that one choice makes or breaks a situation. And I see people get very, very, I call it, it's decision paralysis. They are so afraid of getting the decision wrong that they make no decision, which in my opinion is worse because when the
Right.
dog does something and you just stand there, that absence of behavior leaves the dog with no guidance.
Yes.
The word leadership has an odd connotation in aspects of the dog world. Some people think it's a bad word. It's like dominance. And I'm like, it's a word.
Yeah.
Dominance is just a word. Leadership is just a word. I happen to love the word leadership because what I tell people is when something happens, you need to get involved. You might make the wrong decision, but I'd rather you make the wrong decision than no decision because your dog notices the absence of choice. And when you do that, some dogs will go, oh, well, I guess I'm going to fill in that gap for you. Certain like Belgians. If you don't lead a Belgian and a border collie too, if
Hmm.
you leave the door open and they have an opinion, they go through that door so fast and then they learn how to do it. I would rather you make a choice. I almost don't care what the choice is. Open the door all the way or slam it shut. I don't care. Do something to show your dog you're paying attention. And the problem with decision paralysis is that people actually try to cognitively decide how they should handle a situation in the moment. You don't have time for that. Just do
No.
something. And then later
Exactly.
on say, okay, that wasn't ideal. And next time I'm going to do better. So having decisions made up in advance, like I will tell people, you're working with a reactive dog and you show up somewhere. I need to know what are you going to do when you're here? And what are you going to do if you start getting uncomfortable? And I often tell people to worry about how they feel. If you're watching your dog and you're feeling uncomfortable, that's probably a good sign that you know something, even if you're not conscious of it, you know that your dog is struggling because that's why you're feeling that way. Or if you pull up somewhere and you're looking around to work with your dog and you're like, I'm feeling uncomfortable. That is your body unconsciously telling you this environment is too difficult. It's not going to go well. So listen. But I encourage people to do that before they're in the moment. Like learn to listen to your body and say, what is my body telling me right now? I'm not comfortable. And then make a decision. And also have a plan in place. If things go wrong, what am I going to do? If my dog starts to lunge, I'm immediately going to turn and walk away. If my dog starts to lunge, I'm immediately going to throw food on the ground. If my dog starts to lunge, I'm going to put a cookie in front of their nose. I don't care what you do. But when you have a plan in advance, I find that people have so much more authority in their handling. And then the dog does better because the dog's like, I can tell you have a plan. They can look at the handler and know that you look like you're in control. And I think it's critical to model a sense of leadership. It's like with a child. If you
I was
get to
going to
the
say,
checkout
yeah.
and your child is eyeing the candy bar and says, "Mommy, can I have a candy bar?" and you hesitate, it's over. It's the hesitation because now they're going to push. They're going to feel it, and they're going to push and push and push and push. Before you got to the checkout line, you should have told the kid. And I know we're coming up on those chocolate candies, but we're not going to have one today. Or I know we're coming up on those chocolate candies and I'm going to let you pick one, right? Like have your plan in place so you don't have those moments of, because those are tough. And I just think emotionally, then people beat themselves up so much, especially women. I don't know what's up with that, but they're very quick to take responsibility for things that are not their responsibility. The number of people who have a dog with behavior issues and they explain to me in great detail how they caused it. I'm like, no, you didn't cause that. Your dog came that way. Your dog was showing these signs at 8 weeks of age. The fact that your dog wasn't having full on, explosions, the fact that you tell me you couldn't take your dog out and walk down the street because they were hiding, that's not normal 8-week-old puppy behavior. It might be for a few days, but by the time you've had a dog for a couple of weeks, a little puppy should be looking pretty darn normal. Now, there are some breeds like Border Collies and Belgians where they have their moments, right? They want to chase a car. They do things that you do want to step in, but the overall temperament of the dog, you shouldn't have this thing in the back of your head saying, something's not right here. When you have that feeling, you are not going to just socialize your way out of it. It doesn't work that way. And I wish people would recognize that behavior issues are very, very often deeply seated in genetics. The border collie I have here, I don't know if you know his history. I got him at 6 months of age. He had never left the farm and he had seen two people. He was in a kennel and there was a caretaker in the kennel and an owner. And he got out of his kennel for 5 minutes, 2 times a day, and then back in his kennel.
Oh.
So let's just say he had issues. Okay.
Yeah.
And I knew it. I knew
sad.
it when I took him that there were issues. And when I actually got my hands, because somebody brought him to me, I was not planning on getting a dog. I was in a complicated place in my life. And somebody called me in the morning and said, I think I'm going to bring you this dog. I think you should have this dog.
Goodness.
And I needed a sheepdog for my ranch. And I'm listening to the story of the dog and I'm like, oh, Jesus. So brought me the dog. And the reason I took the dog is I talked to people who knew the parents of the dog. And she said, these dogs are sound as they come. And we talked about how they behaved and they were very sound. And then I talked to the owner of two of the grandparents indirectly through somebody who knew them. Sound. And I am on team genetics. And I said, he's 6 months of age. He's pretty messed up, but the genetics are there. And he is now 10 and a half months. The first month was really hard. He massive flight risk. I had to double collars. He could turn around and pull out of anything. He had a harness, a collar, and it didn't matter how long that line. I had him on 100-foot long line, and he would run. He would just run and try to get away. And I mean, it was terrible. He had to be leashed in my backyard, and I don't have a big backyard because I couldn't catch him. He wanted to have nothing to do with me. It was terrible. He would just hide in a corner in the kennel. He would not eat in front of me. It was. I was actually asking myself some hard questions. After a few days, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is a lot. And if you saw him now, he's got a couple tweaks, but you would never know this was the same dog. That's genetics. I mean, yeah, I made good choices and I worked really hard to help him. But if the genetic package hadn't been there, it's unlikely that I could have turned him around so completely. And the reverse is true as well. I've seen puppies at a very young age who had every advantage. Everything was done well. And you can't just overcome genetic bizarreness. the average, the ideal situation is somewhere in the middle. Most dogs are maybe not perfect genetically, but they're pretty sound. Good
Mm-hmm.
handling brings them in the right direction. Not good handling tips them the other way. And the reverse is also true. I just think that as a society, we work very hard to find explanations for everything. And we like to think that we can take responsibility for turning the dog into the perfect dog. And, it's all in how you raise them is probably the most damaging expression that I have heard in the pet dog world, because there are dogs that frankly do not belong in our society. They are dangerous. They are never going to have a normal quality of life. They have gone through extensive training and they do things that make them unsafe. And then people get all hung up and, well, it's often how you raise. Hey, 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 come here. Good boy. You're all right. It's all in how you raise. And I'm like, well, no, unfortunately, no. Sometimes it's just not that way. And people don't want to hear that. And I think it's causing some very odd realities around dog ownership, how we handle dogs that are dangerous and end up in shelters. When I was a kid, if a dog went to a shelter, that the pet overpopulation problem was so extreme. It's hard for people to grasp how bad it was. They euthanized 90% of the dogs who went into shelter for space, because this was before spay and neuter. This was before responsible dog ownership. This was at a time when a lot of dogs ran loose.
Mm-hmm.
So the pet overpopulation situation was out of control. And as a result, there was a whole lot of euthanasia going on. If a dog had a bite history, it was euthanized on the spot when it went to the shelter, because they had all these great dogs that were also being euthanized for space. And now we really try to save everything. Every dog that walks through that door, we want to save it. And it means dogs with really extensive behavior histories. I read about them online. If you read between the lines, you can see what's going on. They're like, this wonderful dog has been misunderstood. Oh, right there. Like my radar goes up. He doesn't, he needs a home without other dogs in the home. And he would really do best with a single woman. And you're reading through this thing, and basically they're like, well, he just needs someone to love him and to show him the rules. And I'm thinking, it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like there's something terribly wrong here. But again, we think we can fix it all. And God, if I could just give people permission, find a dog that's going to make you happy. Like you don't have to take a dog to save it. You don't have to take a dog because something's going to happen if you don't take it. Dogs, the purpose of dogs historically is to make people happy, to enrich our lives. And in exchange, we enrich their lives. It's a give and take, a back and a forth, and it's what a relationship is. And sometimes I think people are getting dogs because they feel like they have to, and they end up in a circumstance where their entire life is centered around trying to manage a dog that is not making them happy. And I just want to give people permission that it's okay to select a dog, a breed, a temperament, to ask hard questions and get a dog that's going to make you happy. Like, I'm a huge fan of foster to adopt. Bring that dog into your home. And in your mind, you mean it. It's foster to adopt. If that dog is not making you happy, if you realize that the needs of this dog are going to way outstrip your capacity to give, then you don't adopt that dog. And if you bring that dog in your home and you say, all right, we got some quirks, but I can work with them, then that's your dog. That's your next dog. Because you're going in with eyes wide open rather than, oh, he needs a home. So cute. No, think long term here.
Yeah, it's going to live 12, 15 years or more, so it's a commitment.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that is kind of goes to the next question I wanted to ask you, because you talk a lot about really seeing the dog that you have and not the dog you wish you had or the dog you read about. And I think you just talked about that, kind of touched on all that. So, why do you think that trusting why do you think that trusting what's right in front of us can feel so hard? Like that realization. So you have the dog and you're we'd call it overhorsed, but you're over dogged,
Yeah.
it's out of your ability to help them, if they have a bite history, if they're reactive in the point where you're not able to help them, or genetically it's never going to change, or you know, how how does a person, I think you're right what you just said, the fostering is a great way to give that a try. Um, but
And also,
maybe
you're doing that dog a favor, whether you keep it or not. If you foster it in your home, it is still much more likely to find the right home down the road. Sitting in a kennel is very hard on some dogs, especially the sensitive dogs. They really don't do well. So they do need to get out. So you're doing a wonderful thing when you foster to adopt, but you're also setting yourself up for success, and that's much better because I think a lot of people. I get a decent number of notes from people who, if I read carefully, what they're asking me for is permission to stop trying.
yeah.
Um, and I am pretty quick to give people permission to stop trying.
Oh, there
If
and yeah, exactly.
I think people need the option to opt out. I actually wonder how many people will never get another dog because the last one they had was maybe given to them under somewhat false pretenses and was so hard that they've never learned the joy of dog ownership. All they know is how much work it is. And then they'll never get another dog. And I think that's so
Mhm.
sad because dogs are such a fundamental part of my life. I would like everybody to have that experience, to have a dog that really enriches your life and you look forward to seeing them and you like spending time with them, and they're your buddy, and whatever that means different things to different people. Maybe you like to
Yeah.
hike, so your buddy goes hiking. Maybe you don't want to go hiking, and that's fine too. Your buddy sits on your lap. So I do think the right dog is out there for a lot of people who want a dog, and you
Mhm.
have the right to search until you find the dog that kind of makes sense, for your
Yeah. Do you
situation.
feel there's a lot of pressure on people to, like, this Kipling is a purebred dog, and he's, from health tested parents, from an excellent breeder. When I was considering him, I'd met the litter 3 times at this point. I called my friend who has the same breed, and I said, "What do you think about this breeder?" You know what I mean? Like, I did my research before investing in a dog because I knew that I would keep him the rest of his life. So A, I wanted him healthy, and B, I was saying, am I capable? Do you guys, knowing what you know about me, can I handle this dog? So yes, it was impulsive in the sense of, wow, I suddenly want an Australian Terrier. But it wasn't that impulsive because I called my best friend trainer, and I said, I want to get this dog. And she said, you can do this, but he's going to take training. He's not like Kip or,
Yeah.
or he's not like your other 2 dogs. You're going to have to train him. Are you ready to do that? Don't you all wish we had a voice of someone to say that to us when we're picking out our dogs?
Yeah, and I usually do. I'm very fortunate to be surrounded by very good dog people who
Mhm.
can remind me. I kind of like what you're saying. The border collie was from first conversation to in my house was less than 24 hours, and I don't get dogs that way. It's just usually I'm waiting a year for a dog. I pick the
Sure,
breed or I
sure.
pick the parents,
Of course. Yeah.
and this didn't happen that way. But within that 24 hours, it also wasn't a completely emotional decision, and that gave me the time to do the research that at least I never met him. I just took him
Mhm.
um, to do enough research to make a decision. And then I said to myself, I really need a herding dog. I need a working dog. If he can never go to a dog show, that's okay. If he's never
Exactly.
social with people, that's okay. Is it ideal? No, because I do like to do stuff with my dogs, but can I function? Is it enough? And I felt like my line in the sand was he has to be able to get along with my other dogs. He
Mhm.
has to not bite people in my family,
Right.
and he has to work sheep. And we had seen enough at 6 months of age that we were pretty sure he's going to work sheep. Plus, he comes from parents that work
Yeah.
sheep. There was a question about getting along with the dogs in my family because he is a resource guarder. He will always be a resource guarder.
Mhm.
But it works because my other dogs are tolerant of his behavior. And even the 80-pound Belgian defers when Ty starts to guard. You can see the Belgian makes a game out of it. He starts
Mhm.
wagging his tail and he starts being silly. And he can usually diffuse Ty's behavior. It's kind of amazing. Everybody needs a dog like my Belgian for dog skills. But when I first saw it, it was intense. And I
Mhm.
thought, holy crap, that 6-month-old puppy's going to bite. And then I watched how Zen was handling it, and my Belgian was looking at him like, little buddy, I don't know what your problem is, but I'm going to give you space, and just worked with him. But I did say to a friend at that time, I will not live with dogs that fight. I
Oh,
can't.
yeah. It's too dangerous. Yeah.
I'm not good enough at management. Management fails. My Belgian could kill the border collie. I'm not going to have that, especially because their size discrepancy is significant. I have a 12 pound, a 40 pound, and an 80 pound. That's unsafe. And I was so sad, but I remembered resolve to myself saying, if I don't think these dogs can live together in harmony, I'm not going to do crate and rotate. My dogs are pets. They have to
No.
live together.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
while it was mentally painful, and I would have found him a fantastic home. It's not like I would not have
Mm.
sent him back.
Yeah.
I would have made sure he was well taken care of. But it was one of my rules. And I remember saying it publicly so people understood that he must be able to get along with my other dogs. And I have had to put in time and I've made some changes, like there's no toys down in my house. But that's simple. I can do small management changes are not a problem. But when dogs start guarding lint on the floor, or he does guard me, but somehow Zen has worked it out that he won't bite him. So it seems to be working out. Thank
Hmm.
goodness for dog
Yeah.
savvy dogs. But that was my thing. So I think that's another thing that people just really need to recognize, that there are certain things like biting people in my family. I, you can bite people outside my family because I can prevent you from being around people outside my family, but I cannot prevent you from being around my family.
Right.
And one thing I'll say about border collies that I really like, they don't usually bite people. See, Belgians bite people. So with a
Hmm.
Belgian, you really do have to worry about that.
Yeah.
The border collie is like, well, he's not going to bite anybody. He might roll up in a ball and pee, but that's about as bad as it's going to get. So that's like,
Right.
oh, that one's off the table. But yeah, I think having some lines in the sand, and then what can I live with? What's the bare minimum? And I felt like you got to work sheep. Don't bite people. Get along with my dogs, and we're good to go. And
Yeah.
he's
Well, that
actually
sounds
turning
really
into a
fair.
phenomenal dog. I think
Yeah.
he's going to be really an amazing dog.
Yeah, and I have to add before I get in trouble with some of my listeners, the mixed breed, the mixed dogs, whatever, of course, can be wonderful. My own collie mix, like you have a mixed breed, your little guy.
Yeah.
He's collie and Aussie and whatever, and I got him as a puppy, and he looks sort of like a smooth collie, a little bit very muddy. His name is Bentley. Um, oh my gosh, he's like the best dog in the entire world. So yes, genetics are important and purebred and all that stuff, great. But there's also room for every other dog out there that can live in society that
Yeah.
can work with.
Honestly, your best bet is not an 8 week old purebred of any breed. Your best bet is about a 6 or 7 month old dog. Once you're at that point, so if it's a rescue, I don't really care. You know what you have if it's
Mhm.
absolutely normal dog. I'm not saying dogs don't get better or worse. I'm just saying that at 6 months of age, if a dog looks pretty normal, it almost certainly is going to be pretty normal. And if it's
Yeah,
not, the signs will be there. It's like people,
right.
oh, he turned into a teenager and he went to hell. Probably not. Probably you just weren't noticing the sort of earlier signs, but if you look back, you'll probably see them now. So I'm like, if you can come up with a 6 month old dog and foster it in your home,
Hmm.
you're probably going to do okay.
That's really heartening. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I want to talk about your writing because you've got lots of books, which is wonderful, and we're going to list all of we'll list everything on the notes of the show so that everyone who wants to learn more from Denise can do that. Your writing is really conversational and honest. What made you want to start sharing this publicly instead of keeping it like in your own little training world? I think you talked about COVID, how it changed things some, but you must
Yeah.
have felt strongly like, this is important stuff to get out, that people can benefit from this because they sure do.
The books are interesting. I wrote my first series of books with Deb Jones, and she was already an author, and she contacted me. And when she contacted me, I said, absolutely not. And then I thought about it for 5 minutes. And next thing you know, books are coming out left and right. Now, after that, it was like the floodgates had opened.
Mm.
And I just have a lot to say, and I'm hard to slow down. So I think I wrote 10 books in very short order. I wrote one book in 3 days. It's actually my best selling book. It's called Beyond the Backyard. 3 days. And I have ADHD. And one advantage to ADHD, people don't talk about the advantages. There's actually a lot of them.
It's a
One of
magic
them is what's called
superpower.
hyperfocus. So people with
Mhm.
ADHD often have hyperfocus, which means absolutely nothing else in the world registers. And when I get hyper focused on writing, it's 18 hours. It's just, I can't stop. I try to go to bed. I get back up. This book had to come out. And so it did. It came out fast and
Mhm.
sent it off to my editor. And it's now in many languages around the world and it sells
Cool.
consistently. And it's actually to the pet market, not to the dog show market. So, hey, what do you know? But I still have, I think, 2 or 3 books in my computer and I just got tired. I don't even know what they're about anymore. They're in there. I haven't finished them and I probably won't. Now I sort of prefer writing shorter things or just talking. I do a lot of Instagram lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just in a different phase in my life, a very fortunate phase actually, where I can focus on what I really want to do. I
Mm-hmm.
have a school, I have to work, right? I've got to run my school, but I love running my school. But all the rest of my time is my time. And what I love to do is talk about dogs and educate people and give them things to think about. And so that is what I do, whether on
Yeah.
Facebook or Instagram. And I don't have to monetize it, which is it gives you a lot of freedom. What I can talk about, I don't have to. I'm not in the same parameters that most people are, or that I was maybe at some time in the past. I can just tell people what I think and how I feel, and don't have to worry too much about what happens next. So that's a
Mhm.
freedom that I wish on everyone,
Yeah.
because I think figuring out who you are, find your compass and stick to it is a big deal. And I have learned that I can say anything I want to say. It's just framing it, and some people will agree and some people won't agree. But as long as it's aligned with my compass, I feel pretty good about things because I can
Excellent.
change my mind, and that's fine.
Hmm.
But right now, I can say what I want to say, and you can take it, you can leave it, I can support it, and I can always go back to my compass and say, does this fit who I want to be? Does this fit who I think I am? And I want to be a kind person. I want to be a thoughtful person. I want to be an open person. So if it fits all of that, then I'm probably okay. And you mentioned earlier about some trainers are great with the dogs, not as good with the people. The way I train my dogs is not about dog training, it's about a philosophy of living. And I
Hmm.
try to live gently. I try to be gentle with people. I try to be gentle with dogs. I have animals and I kill those animals. I live on a ranch. I eat those
Sure.
animals. I am not a
Well,
vegetarian. And my mental model is, how am I going to do this? Like, I have somebody come to the ranch, we kill on the ranch. How can I do this so that the stress will be as minimal for this animal as possible? How can I make sure that until the day I
exactly.
do make that decision, it's good? I do not sell any animals off my ranch because I don't know where they'll go. So,
Yes.
pretty much, you will die on my ranch. And that's part of my philosophy of living. It's this is the way I'm going to live. How can I make it kind as much as I can? And people could say, but you're ultimately killing things. That's about as unkind as possible. And I would say that's not true. We're all going to die. I am admittedly stepping in sooner
Yeah.
and
But
making it happen
exactly. Do you
sooner.
remember what Temple Grandin said? Of course, Temple Grandin, helped
Yeah.
change the industry. She said, "Well, of course we're going to eat them." I mean, it was so practical. Like we may as well be as kind as possible up to that moment. So, but it was also like a very eyes wide open. This is how it's going to be for this particular cow or cattle or whatever. And so I always liked that. Like she was so down to earth about it. Well, like of course, and
Yeah.
everyone can have their opinion about that, but I completely respect and understand where you're coming from, of course. And I'm in Wisconsin, dairy country, and of course,
Yep.
and I have chickens and sheep and horses and
Yep.
all those animals, and I so everyone will have their opinion, but I'm
Yeah.
treating
My
any
chickens,
animal.
they run loose and they,
Sure, I've got
lay
the
eggs.
happiest
And
chickens ever, yeah.
I
But
try to make it, they eat their little worms every day, and I try to make it good. But that to
oh,
me is a
I
philosophy of life, not a philosophy of dog training. And so that when I talk about having a compass, I try to have a compass which encompasses all aspects of my life and decision
right,
making.
right.
And before I do something, I'm also very direct. And so some people would think that's a contradiction. I don't think it is. I think I say what I want to say. I'm the most non passive aggressive person on the planet. But I do recognize that I have the power to choose how I say it,
Mhm.
um, while being clear. And so with my dogs, I try to be very, very clear and I try to be very kind. And
Well,
sometimes that
dogs
means I tell them, don't do that.
right, no, dogs appreciate clarity just like horses, and congruence means that as your body's matching your brain. You're not hiding anything. When you say you're direct, you're not hiding anything. And so with a horse, okay, if you go out there like, "I'm really brave and I'm not afraid of you and I'm gonna get on you and we're gonna just have this," but inside you're like really, really afraid, the horse goes, "Something's wrong. You're not matching up. Which thing do I believe?" It's confusing for horses. So you're better off going, And my husband does this, and I love this about him. He'll go out amongst, we have 8 Morgan horses. He'll go out amongst them and he'll say, "Oh, excuse me. Oh, be careful. I'm going to walk you now, so don't hurt me, okay? Okay." And they love that he is exactly saying what he feels. And they love him. And it's really neat where I'll be like, "Okay, now I'm really fine." And, especially right after when I had my accident, and got healed up, like this first few rides, I was like, am I going to be scared forever? I'm not. But the horse went like, I'll be really gentle with you, and I'll just walk really
Oh,
slow because because it was a sweet horse. Uh, but congruency, and it sounds like in your life, what you see is what you get, and that's a very admirable trait because the dogs can respect that, and people know what they have when they're with you. They can trust you, and trust and communication is for people and animals. So good on you
yeah.
for all that.
Work in
Well, we've
progress,
talked
but it's worthwhile.
for sure. Well, we've talked for quite a while, and boy, there's going to be so much when I go back over this to relearn. If you want to just tell us the best way for people to learn about you, like the first place to stop. What's the best way to learn about you and your programs, and how you can help them?
Facebook. Go to Facebook. Look for my name. I'm exceptionally present. If you talk to me, I talk back. I'm very interactive there and happy to have people. And you'll learn a lot about dog training. You're just gonna. I put videos up all the time. Today I put up a video of me doing very bad dog training, so you can watch me screw up my training, and I explain how I screwed up my training, and I show you the video of me screwing up my training, and then I tell you where I went wrong and how I'm going to do it next time. I'm not upset about it. It's like, well, yeah, you grab it, run with it, learn from it. So
Yeah.
super open on Facebook, and I do have an online school, Fenzi Dog Sports Academy. But easiest thing is to contact me directly through like Messenger if you're looking for more, and I can direct you from there.
Oh, that's wonderful. It sounds to me that like your all of it aligns with your, like what you say, your compass. The fact that you're open with people, caring. These are lucky dogs and lucky people. Thank you, Denise, for spending time with us today. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.